Welcome to another episode of This Week in Goldmaking, presented by Darkshore Capital. This week's market updates. The first thing that should probably jump out to everyone, aside from the fancy new formatting, which has graced the presence of our weekly update, I want to quickly shout out buddy Whiskey Jack from Twitter, who came to me with these suggestions to spruce things up a bit. Hopefully it helps out, keep you guys interested. One thing to notice, there's a lot of red on those Legion materials. I think it should be pretty obvious why those are all going down. That is, of course, the end of Legion is coming. Not a whole lot of use for these materials anymore, and we're finally really seeing some movement there. Perhaps something, if you have any plans to keep crafting Legion crafts in the future, might want to consider looking into buying some soon. Two other things I wanted to note on the weekly tracking is gold ore has continued to rise quite significantly. 23% increase this week is still pretty big, and up to approximately 100 gold per 1 gold ore. That's kind of silly, but like I said, we're going to keep an eye on that one for a while and kind of try and get to the bottom of those price movements. And then the Crimson Death Charger mount price actually dropped quite a bit as well on the region market average. So not really sure why that would have happened, but just something interesting. Going to keep an eye on that one. All right, so really one big thing for news this week, that's 8.0 patch is coming out tomorrow for me, Tuesday of this week, if you're watching this video this week. That is, of course, the pre-patch for Battle for Azeroth. There's plenty of information that has been thrown at us constantly for the past month or so on what's going to happen with this, so I'm not going to go into any details on overall gameplay stuff, but I did want to point out two things that I personally did not know about until today. Number one being both the Gul'dan and Argus Mythic mounts are going to remain at a 100% drop rate until Battle for Azeroth releases. So if you are looking to buy or sell those mounts still, you are in luck. There are perhaps still people looking to buy or sell them. Note that Head of the Curve and Cutting Edge are not included in that list of things you can still buy and sell. That is definitely going away. The other thing I wanted to note is something, I think they're calling it Legacy Loot, Legacy Raid Loot. And effectively what that means is if you enter a raid and your character's level is 10 levels or higher than the level that raid is intended for, when you kill a boss, you will get the number of items that a normal size raid would have gotten for that. So what that means, I'm hoping, is if you were to go into LFR, say the Siege of Orgrimmar LFR, which normally if you run that normally, now you would get one piece of loot maybe, because it's just personal loot straight up, you can't change it. So hopefully with this change, it means that you'll get 4 or 5 pieces of loot if you do LFR, which will make farming that content so much easier. All right, into the topic for today. Just a little quick one, some interesting thoughts as we're moving into kind of a new era in World of Warcraft. Many players may have old characters laying around that are probably not doing much to make them gold. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit of what I do with some of my old characters. So I have here, this is actually on my secondary account, I have another character that is currently parked, for lack of a better term, in the Townlong Steppes on Pandaria. And this little area up here, I have my Hearthstone set to this little town here, the Longing Outpost, because the purple triangle-looking chevron thing is a rare spawn for Lawn the Bull, who has a chance to drop a bag which contains Golden Lotus. Now, this isn't the kind of thing where I'm constantly out here trying to find him, server hopping and whatnot. Server hop actually almost never works here, as a side note. But it's more of like this character doesn't need a Hearthstone set anywhere else, so I might as well set it here, and perhaps every once in a while I can go check it and have a chance at getting a useful item. It's, almost no cost whatsoever to have that Hearthstone set there, since we have wonderful other Dalaran and Garrison Hearthstones to get around other places. Another thing I use this character for is daily cooldowns. So I have both engineering and alchemy, which I use to make jards for sky golems or engineering pets, and alchemy for various transmutes, either living steel, the Purium bars, or actually a closet secret, super secret one is actually the King's Amber transmute. This is actually a fairly valuable transmute, and it's on the daily cooldown still. The King's Amber is actually used for some crafting recipes hopefully for tailoring in Wrath of the Lich King. And then the last thing that I wanted to share with you that I do use some alts for, and this is a bit of an advanced topic, I will say that, is actually raid lockout extensions. So you can actually, if you click this button, reactivate raid lockout on a character that had previously cleared a raid or dungeon, it will reactivate that lockout. And so the example here that I'm using is for Molten Core. So on this character, a few weeks ago, I went through and cleared every boss except for the last one, Ragnaros, and then just left and didn't clear it. So now what I can do is if I log into a character on my main account and invite that character to a group with this character that we're looking at here, and then my main account character zones into Molten Core, they will instantly be able to go and kill Ragnaros without having to kill any of the other bosses. There's some interesting implications for this, both for gold farming, or even just if you're trying to find a particular item. For raids, a very popular one would be mount farming. So I've actually got a few different interesting lockouts here. So there's Molten Core for Ragnaros, Karazhan, pretty much Karazhan to just not have to do the chess event because, as I'm sure you know, that is a pain to do. Ulduar for Yogg-Saron if I ever feel like farming the Head of Mimron, and then the two actually moneymaker ones are Icecrown Citadel and Siege of Orgrimmar. So for ICC, this is actually, you'll notice, not a heroic lockout. That's because the Drudge Ghoul, which is a very, I would say, fairly valuable battle pet, somewhere in the range of 30,000 to 60,000 gold, drops off of the Lich King at a fairly high rate for a drop of that nature. So what I can do is farm ICC 25-man normal Lich King on all my other characters using this lockout and cut out all of the clear time. I think it's around like a 20 to 30 minute clear time per ICC if you're going on a high level character. This cuts it down to around 5 minutes per character, which is much quicker and has been very effective so far. And then Siege of Orgrimmar, same deal. Both Siegecrafter Blackfuse and the Paragons of the Calaxy both have a chance to drop a battle pet, which is valuable. So there you go. You can do this without having a second account. It involves some trickiness with creating a group in the group finder, and then setting it to auto accept once you list it, and then logging on to the other character real quick, and then joining that group. You can do it, and it's totally fine. It's just I have the second account, so I might as well use it for that purposes. Make it easy. All right, let's get on to some Q&A. We've got some interesting questions this week. First question. How much gold is too much? Now, of course, the knee-jerk reaction here is no gold is too much. But it did get me thinking a little bit about gold cap and theoretically how much gold could you have on one account. So each character has a gold cap of 10 million gold. Each character could have a guild bank, which has a gold cap of 10 million gold. So that's 20 million gold per character. You multiply that by 50 characters per account, and you get somewhere in the neighborhood of a trillion gold. I think it's just under a trillion gold with because it's technically not exactly 10 million gold for gold cap. It's 1 copper under that. But then I also got to thinking, well, what about the mailbox? Because if I'm not mistaken, you can mail gold, and if you could mail gold cap, then, well, how many pieces of mail could you get in a mailbox? And then you could start having your gold stored in the mailbox and just kind of roll through it that way. So anyway, it got a little ridiculous. I think that the first number I arrived on was somewhere in the neighborhood of 187 septillion gold for across all different characters. Now at this point, you're really getting into a point where it's how much time are you investing in just moving your gold around. So it's a little silly, it's a little ridiculous, and it actually does prove my point that you can never have too much gold, I think is the real point here. If you ever reach that point, then, well, you've got other problems. All right, moving on. Another question. Any idea why tiny, unremarkable fist weapons, like Gut Rippers, have such high prices? Do people actually transmog to these? And as you can see, I have an example of that item that is the Gut Rippers fist weapon over there. And my answer to specifically for this item, I think that the Brass Knuckles does have some desirability from a transmog standpoint. I can definitely see some people wanting to use that in a particular theme for their outfit. However, getting more to what the question was asking about, there are plenty of items in the game, weapons and armor, that are very unremarkable and you have to ask the question, why would anyone want these? And the answer is they're not looking to actually use them in their outfits. It's just to increase their collection size. I mean, you look at what Asmongold does with his stream. Basically, his entire stream is just him trying to get every single item in the game using that the add-on All the Things. Other people are trying to do that too, or at least have something like that. At least try and do something about it. So it's really just up the numbers, and that's it. And okay, final question: could 110 BOEs become useful for 111 Twinks come Battle for Azeroth? And my understanding is that the idea of having sort of an under-level twink for running dungeons and things of that nature, or farming perhaps, is kind of going away. I believe with the level scaling and the item scaling, something I don't know the details. I believe that's going away, so I guess the answer is just no. And that wraps it up for this week. I hope you guys have learned something interesting, and if you'd like to follow me anywhere else or have any questions, you can always leave a comment on the video. We'll be more than happy to answer there. You can find me on Twitter at DarkshoreCap, or if you prefer a more private method of communication, you can always send me an email, darkshorecapital@gmail.com. I want to thank you very much for watching, and wish you happy gold making in 8.0 this week. See you next time.